Greetings and welcome to another episode of Super Speak Sundays. I'm your host, James the Orator. As you know, this is a space where we highlight ordinary people who have gone on to do extraordinary things. We are excited on this day. This is another day that the man upstairs has given us. And we have to be excited about that because somebody did not wake up this morning. We want to thank you all really for all of your support so far. You know, it's unbelievable. My people on LinkedIn, my people on Facebook, you all are just doing your thing. And of course, the YouTube channel, we want to definitely encourage each of you to subscribe to our YouTube channel because that is where you will get firsthand information about the upcoming recordings and information that we're going to share with you. You know, when we were children, we had a dog and we didn't really know how to take care of a dog because nobody in our family really had animals. But today you're going to be enriched by some information that, it's very it's unconventional. I mean, you don't see a lot of folks in this field that we're going to introduce our guests today. And so we want to start out by reading her bio. And I want you to listen carefully. This is Dr. Adrienne Dunham. She's a native of Birmingham, Alabama. She attended Tuskegee University where she earned a Bachelor's of Science in Animal and Poultry Sciences. She received her doctorate as well in veterinary medicine. After veterinary school, she completed her Master's of Public Health at the University of Iowa and is a diplomat of the American College of Veterinary Prevention Medicine. Wow, that's a mouthful there. Dr. Dunham has spent her veterinary career immersed in animal and public health. While being trained as an expert in animal health, she was particularly interested in the impact of human health. As a result, she was offered an internship with the United States Department of Agriculture, and that's another way of saying is the USDA, where she explored food safety and food defense. The USDA internship further developed her interest in policy development and analysis as it relates to veterinary public health practice. Dr. Dunham is currently Deputy Chief of Staff with the USDA and in international public area. In her role, she supports the Deputy Administrator in the office tasked with protecting U.S. agriculture globally. So I had never heard of any person who worked for the USDA. But without further ado, we're going to bring Dr. Dunham in. Dr. Dunham, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Now, I think we had a conversation before we got started. We're not going to call you Dr. Dunham. It's okay to call you Adrienne during this recording, correct?
That's 100% okay.
That's all right. Well, Dr. Dunham, as we traditionally do, we usually have what we call a quote for each of our new interviewees or our guests. And so we want to show that. Now, when you see this, we want you just to have give us your initial reaction. Okay. So the quote says, "Many vets will happily recount a childhood passion for animals or a childhood pet that led them to eventually pursuing a career as a vet." And that's by Nadine Hamilton. What are your reactions?
I think that's true. Personally, my first pet was a dog by the name of Snow. We had a Spitz he was solid white, beautiful dog. And we, typical family had a pet, we took care of our pet, but we didn't know a whole lot about, taking it to the doctor and making sure it had shots and that kind of thing. And so he became ill. He became afflicted with a disease called heartworm disease.
Okay.
And we took him to the vet, and I met a veterinarian by the name of Dr. Jerome Williams, who to this day is still a mentor of mine.
Okay.
And he helped us out with it. He did treat him. He eventually did pass away, not, a short time after that, but we continued to take our pets to Dr. Williams after that, that was a learning experience for us as a family. And it kind of opened my eyes to there's another way that we can, be happy as humans outside of just our human family, but we also have to take care of those pets as well. So that's a very true statement.
Yeah, yeah. And it's amazing. Again, as I mentioned in my introduction, I this is my first time ever meeting a woman of color who is a veterinarian, even a male of color who is a veterinarian. We just, as we grew up in Gary, Indiana, we just never saw the images of a veterinarian, because again, it was we grew up in a different situation where, we didn't have pet insurance and things of that nature.
Right.
Talk a little bit about when you were in high school. So you had this dog, and so talk about your background in terms of science and math. I mean, were you really strong in those areas?
I wouldn't call myself strong in those areas. I did not know a lot about what I needed in order to be a veterinarian when I was in high school. The school that I went to, that wasn't a focus.
Okay.
School. It was more of an arts type school. It was a private school. They didn't promote a lot of professions outside of, like I said, your general arts or human medicine. Veterinary medicine was not high on the list of what they were telling people to go into. So I actually went to undergrad thinking that I would eventually possibly pursue a degree in gynecology.
Okay.
And I enrolled through the animal sciences program because I still was interested in animal science and I wanted to know what it was all about. And I just realized that it was very comfortable for me. I understood what was going on, and I genuinely loved what I was learning in that field. And so I stayed that route. I graduated with a degree in animal sciences.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I took a lot of science courses, but I wouldn't say they were my best courses, but I passed.
Okay.
You do have to have a strong science background going into veterinary school. A lot of biology, a lot of chemistry, physiology, anatomy. You do need to be familiar with those things going into veterinary school. After I graduated from undergrad, I realized that I did not have, number one, I didn't have a lot of experience working in an animal clinic, but I also needed some extra chemistry courses. So I came back to Birmingham for a year and a half, and I took some extra courses at the University of Alabama, and I also worked at an animal clinic as well as at the Humane Society here in Birmingham for that year and a half to get my experience, because you do have to have some experience in different areas of veterinary medicine as part of your application process.
Okay.
And so I used that to obtain those hours so that I could make application, and I applied back to Tuskegee University where I also obtained my bachelor's degree. And that's my story. I ended up at the Tuskegee University, at the time, School of Veterinary Medicine. They just changed to the College of Veterinary Medicine, but that's a joke amongst us Tuskegee grads. I graduated from school, not the college.
Okay. Well, yeah, I feel like I'm a alumni of Tuskegee as well. As much money as I've been spending down there with my son.
We accept all family.
Yeah. And so you didn't have this affinity for, wanting to be this, doc. You didn't sleep with hamsters and all that kind of stuff. It just kind of slowly grew on you, and you decided we'll go in this area. And so people may not understand what exactly, because I think when you hear the word veterinarian, you think only animals, but there are so many other components of being a vet. Can you talk a little bit about what those areas are? I mean, how many different buckets are there when you talk about being a vet?
Well, one thing I will say before I move into that, I always had a pet. I had hamsters, gerbils. My first hamster's name was George. I named it after my dad.
Okay.
I had chickens. I had the whole gamut of animals. Wow. And we grew up. We didn't grow up in a spacious area. We grew up in the middle of the city. I had chickens in my backyard, right?
Okay.
So I always had a pet, but like I said, veterinary medicine, like as you stated, it wasn't something that people promoted, particularly in the African American community. They
Right.
promoted, going to school. They wanted us to be doctors, but they wanted us to
Right.
be medical doctors,
Right.
lawyers, teachers, accountants. They didn't really promote veterinary medicine. So I knew I wanted to go to a HBCU,
Mm-hmm.
and I knew Tuskegee had a lot of opportunity for me, regardless of what I chose, whether I chose to continue on with just the biology major or continue with the animal science major. So
Right.
I was okay with the school choice. Um, but yeah, as far as just being in the field or everything that you can do. So I knew after working for Dr. Williams for the couple of years I worked with him before going to vet school, and then I also would work with him while I was in vet school. I
Okay.
knew that practice probably was not going to be where I hung my hat.
Okay.
I'm very emotional, and I know that. And so part of being in the field, those emotions, you have to be able to manage them when you're dealing with animals, because animals cannot talk. And so
Right.
you have to be able to understand when they're in pain. You have to be able to treat it and that kind of thing. And so I knew that being in practice was going to be very stressful for me. And so I started looking into other ways that I could use my veterinary degree and still be impactful in the profession. And after speaking with Dr. Williams, we talked a whole lot about public health.
Okay.
I'm very interested in disease. And even when I was in practice, medicine was my thing.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody brought in a sick pet, I would run myself crazy trying to figure out what was wrong with
Mm-hmm.
this pet. And so we talked a lot about disease and how animal diseases impact human health and vice versa. And so I started looking into public health type areas in my
Right.
second year of vet school. And we had some recruiters come for USDA. They were recruiting for a new internship with USDA, and it was related to food. And they were looking for veterinarians to feed into this program. And I applied for it, and I got it. Um, and it took me to different parts of the agency policy. It took me into the field to work directly with, the people who actually process our food. It took me to headquarters to interface with, our leaders within the agency. So I got to see a lot of different parts of the food agency, and I just fell in love with it. My first real foray into it after graduation was food defense. And a
Okay.
lot of people don't know what food defense is,
That's
right?
that's what I asked. What is food defense?
So food defense is, when we talk about food safety versus food defense, we look at the things that we cannot prevent in
Okay.
food. So that would be food safety. And we have to control. That's a better
Mm-hmm.
way to put it. And so those are things that are unintentional, right?
Okay.
So we know that animals have certain diseases that we may find in food. So we put in all the efforts we can to try to prevent those illnesses or those bacteria from affecting humans when they eat, right?
Okay.
Then we have the intentional acts, which those are the things where you have people who may put things in food to intentionally harm people. So that's where you get
Oh
into
wow.
the food defense area.
Okay.
And so that was my first real dive into to food safety, food defense after I graduated. And I worked for her title at the time was the Senior Scientific Advisor for Food Defense, and she managed all the laboratory programs, research, that kind of thing into food defense. And I worked directly for her as an assistant. And
Yeah.
that kind
Wow.
of led to my love for food in particular. So I spent most of my time with USDA working in food.
Okay. All right. So it's been a big push here lately. And I know I've heard a number of people just kind of talk about the importance of starting to grow their own food. Is this something that we should be considering? I mean, given the fact that there are different things that happen with food and in grocery stores and things of that nature. What is the USDA saying? And I know you can't speak on their behalf, but what are your thoughts in terms of starting a garden in your backyard?
Well, I always think if you're going to farm your own food, that's a good idea, right? Because who knows better what's going into your house other than the person that's growing
Right.
it, right? But from a USDA standpoint, in the area where I worked when I was handling food, we do red meat and poultry. and some other meat products. It depends on the percentages and that kind of thing. I won't get into that. But our primary goal is red meat and poultry. And so from that aspect, I can guarantee you that USDA is doing everything they can to make sure that what you eat is safe when it comes to those particular areas. We have people out there that are inspecting your food. They're working with the processors. They're making sure that they're doing what they say they're going to do and what the regulations require them to do. You should not be concerned about the food you eat. If there's something wrong with it, you best believe they're going to tell you. We've seen so many strides in how we can get notified for things when there's an issue with food. You talk about recalls, things that were not happening, 20, 25 years ago, the amount of information that comes out when the USDA is notified or identifies that there is something wrong with the food that you're eating, or even FDA. I've never worked for FDA, but they handle everything else. That's how we like to say it. Even when they identify or they are notified that there's an issue with food, the lengths that they go to make sure that general public knows that they need to, throw it away, return it, do whatever the instruction is. I mean, we've seen so much improvement in those areas over the past years. So you're safe, but by all means, having a garden, growing your own food, I mean, I can't say anything negative about that.
Yeah, we've seen a major push with, folks, becoming vegan and, they don't eat, red meat and things of that nature. And you said there's no concerns about that, but I mean, what are your thoughts for the reasons people are starting to get away from, from red meat?
Well, I think that a lot of it is we know more as humans than what we knew, 10, 15 years ago about how meat is processed and that kind of thing. Some people may have aversions to how food is processed, how animals are grown for food. They may be concerned about the different things that are used to process the food, but we go to great lengths to make sure that whatever is being used to process your food is safe. And if it's not, we take action. And so, if you choose to eat red meat, if you choose to eat poultry, you should not be concerned about whether or not it has been verified to be safe. Now, that's not a guarantee, though. And, we can't, you never know, but if something's wrong, someone will let you know.
Okay. Wow. This is, this conversation is definitely taking me out of my comfort zone, because there have been times when I've thought about, giving up meat and cheese and things of that nature. And not because I was concerned about, the impact that it would have on my body, but just, thinking about weight loss and things of that nature.
Right.
So let me kind of set the stage here. So as you have been working with, food, red meat, and, you have transitioned out of working directly with poultry and I guess you're still a vet, but now you're doing you're the chief of staff. Talk about that transition. I mean, that's totally out of the box for you.
Yes, it is. So one thing I will say about me is I've never been afraid to do something different or new.
Okay.
So I left a previous position and I moved to DC to do a little bit more policy related work, still working for food. And I came across an opportunity in an international program office that would allow me to interface a little bit more on the administrative side, but also learn a new skill because I had never worked in an international area. And so the area that the position, like I said, was a deputy chief of staff position where I would be working directly with the chief of staff, supporting or reporting to the deputy administrator for that particular office. And it just really spoke to me because there's a lot of policy involved, a lot of policy analysis involved, and, just decision making as it relates to how we manage globally international trade diplomacy, capacity building, and even some other programs that deal directly with, human and animal health internationally. And so I applied, I got the job, and I've been there now about a year. I think it was a year last week, actually. And I mean, this is probably one of the best decisions that I think I've made professionally. I've learned a lot. When I started, I said I have a love for disease, animal disease, and how it works when it comes to humans, and the things that we look at globally, when we talk about like foreign animal diseases and that kind of thing,
Wow.
and the impact on human health and food and trade and all of that. It's,
Mhm.
it's this job just every day. I'm learning
Wow.
something new, and I love it. I love it.
It sounds like it. It sounds like you are definitely, in your lane right now, doing, being, working as a chief of staff.
Mhm.
Take me back to your childhood. You have two other sisters, and all of you are just, you all are doing some great things. I mean, it's just unbelievable. When you see, all three siblings that are just, doing great things and giving to the community and giving of themselves. What was it like at home with your parents? I mean, did your parents put a lot of pressure on you to? I heard you mention earlier that they want you to be doctor, lawyer, but what were the conversations like? Like as children. I mean, what are some of the lessons you learned as a child?
Okay, so I'm gonna take my glasses off because they're glaring. But okay, so my dad, right? So I don't know if I can make this any less than what it's gonna be because my
Right,
dad, right? So
right.
my dad, my dad, my mom, and my dad were very big on education.
Hmm.
When we were growing up, my dad, we couldn't watch TV. You know,
Okay, okay.
we read books, and my dad literally was that parent that bought the Encyclopedia Britannicas
Yes.
to tell us go read the encyclopedia and then ask us about the stuff that we read,
Hmm.
right? And so he
Oh
was
yeah.
literally that person. And my mom, she was very adamant about the fact she wanted, she had three girls and she wanted us to be educated.
Right.
And she would say, you make a decision on what you're going to do after you get a degree, but you need to go to school, you need to go to college. They just really promoted going to school, getting a degree.
Hmm.
um, we were always taught that education is an opportunity, it's a right, it's an advantage,
Right.
and you need to take advantage of every opportunity you get to learn something new.
Hmm.
And I remember having a conversation with my dad about going into the military. He told
After
me,
high school.
well, I was in college and I was
Oh,
thinking
okay.
about like student loans and stuff like that. And he told me, he said, I don't have a problem with you going to the military. He said, it wouldn't be my first choice for you.
Right.
He said, but I need you to make sure you get your education if that's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
He didn't want me to drop out of school and join the military. Like he went into the military right out of high school. He was drafted. And so he didn't want that. He wanted us to have some degrees behind us. And Tanya and Michelle, those are my sisters. They
Mhm.
always tease me because they say, Dad always said, Adrienne gonna be a veterinarian. I didn't say that. He did say that, and words manifest is what I say.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so he knew before I did that this is what I was going to be in life, and I would tease him, all the time, even before he passed, because he would call me and ask me
Yeah.
questions about stuff that was going on with him medically, and I would say, well, Dad, okay, if you were a dog, that's how I would that's how I would
Hey,
have to present it to
say
him.
start barking, huh?
Right. But yeah, him and my mom both, they just really
Yeah.
promoted education in our household. We went to private school. They made sure
Mhm.
that we came home, we did homework. I didn't play sports. Latanya and Michelle played sports, but school was first.
Okay.
And that's really what it was like. We laugh about it now, but then we was like, we don't want to read the encyclopedia, we want to watch the Cosby Show,
Yeah. Oh
and
yeah.
so
Oh
that
yeah.
kind of
Oh
thing.
yeah.
But that is the foundation that we have. And even now as adults, it's kind of funny because last week we were all in Gulf Shores and doing exactly that. I was reading, Michelle's on the computer, Latanya's doing
Right.
her thing. It never ends for us. So
Yeah.
they really taught us that, and it's ingrained in us.
Well,
So
you know what, you all should be very proud of the foundation that was laid for you, because again, it's quite evident now and who you all have become. And I'm very proud, just to be affiliated, with your family. Um, there's a parent, a mother, a father, there's a child who might be listening to this. What what advice do you have for the parent in terms of, in addition to what you've already shared with us about what your life was as a child, but what information can you share with a parent to encourage their child to become great?
Oh wow, that's a big one. So um
And
listen.
the reason we ask that is because, you know, sometimes parents are not. For instance, when I graduated from high school, my parents just told me go to college. You know, they didn't say, you know, they didn't have the information because they didn't have the opportunity to go. And so
Mhm.
there may be a parent who does not have the experience. They may think, what should I be doing with my child while they're in high school, classes, things of that nature.
So I would say my okay, so my mom and dad learned along the way.
Hmm.
That there are three of us, and Latanya was the first. She went off to school, so they learned with her, and then they learned more with Michelle. And so
Right.
by the time I came along, they kind of had a little bit of a step in, a little block to walk or whatever.
Right.
But listen to your kids. Make sure your kids understand what's out there for them. Uh, education is big, and however you get your education, whether you go to a trade or you go to a 4-year college or 2-year college, education is big. You should definitely take
Absolutely.
the time to try to do something that will give you some extra skills. Um,
Absolutely.
and as a parent, I don't have any kids, but I would think as a parent, being able to have those conversations with your children about what they want to do in
Hmm.
life, where they want to go to school. My parents they did not necessarily promote HBCUs, but they did not promote HBCUs either.
Hmm.
We all went to an HBCU, and we would talk about the different schools and the different programs that they had. And for me in particular, Tuskegee University is the only HBCU that has a veterinary medicine program that
Hmm.
awards a doctorate degree. And I remember having that conversation with my mom and my dad that, if I do choose to be a vet, I can get my doctorate degree from Tuskegee because they have a veterinary medicine program. And, those were things that we discussed. And if I didn't, we talked about where I would go next, what
Yeah.
school I could go. So we talked about medical school at Howard, you
Okay.
know.
Okay.
So those were different conversations that we had. And they didn't, my parents aren't, they didn't, they don't have 4-year degrees. My dad had an associate's degree.
Uh-huh.
So they were learning with us. And sometimes it just takes that as a parent. You get in there and you get in and you start learning with the kids. Like I remember filling out applications and my mom and I trying to figure out how to do a FAFSA application,
Yes. Yeah.
that kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's a learning process. But I would say the one thing I would say is just listen to your kids and
Yeah.
understand what their strengths and their weaknesses are. Don't push them to do things that are your dream and not theirs,
Right.
because that
Right.
happens too. And understand that they may get there and change their minds. Like there were plenty of days where I was just like, I'm gonna just go sign up for nursing, because I was tired of animal science classes, like
Right.
that kind of thing. So,
Right.
but
Right.
just know that once they get there, their whole life might change. They might decide they want to be an architect, and they went to be a sociology major. You never know what's going to happen. Just being open to what kids need and what they're saying, because I think sometimes we may get a little blind by what we
Yeah.
want and not necessarily what they want.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
I have to commend your parents. They definitely allowed you all to get ahead of the curve when we talk about HBCUs. So many students are pursuing HBCUs. We've seen the number one football player in the country to go to Jackson State. Talk about the rivalry. I know you have one sister who went to Alabama State, the other one went to
yeah.
Southern University, and then you went to Tuskegee. What were those rivalry? And I know that it's always a rivalry. Talk about what that was like at home, or what it still might be.
Right. So there still is. So my rivalry is Latanya's school, Alabama State. So
Mhm.
we usually are the ones that are going back and forth. Michelle's school is her rival is Grambling. So that's a different
Why did I say
area,
Southern?
or Alcorn. Well, she went to Southern, but her
Okay,
rival
okay, Oh,
the
rivalry. Okay, I got
Alcorn and Jackson State. So,
you. Okay.
that's a different side of the world, but me and Latanya and me. So we are Alabama State and Tuskegee. So they have a football game every year, the Turkey Day Classic. For some reason, the Turkey Day Classic had always been played between Alabama State and Tuskegee, but a couple of years ago, there was a decision made that they would not play Tuskegee every year.
I saw that. I saw that.
Yeah, I have my thoughts on why that decision was made, but
Okay.
the numbers tell the story. It's all I have to say.
Okay.
But it's a healthy rivalry, because I will say, as a student at Tuskegee, I spent a lot of time at Alabama State because they're like 45 minutes apart. So I know just as much about Alabama State as Latanya knows about Tuskegee. So, and Southern as well. So
well, good.
We have fun. We do.
I know you do. I know you do. Last question. So there may be a young lady or a young man who has this affinity for animals. I mean, they just like you grew up with a dog, maybe had a hamster, snake, whatever, and they can't figure out what this means for them. And it very well could mean that there may be an opportunity to go to vet school. What advice do you have for young people who may be interested in pursuing a career as a veterinarian?
So I mentor vet students, and I mentor high school students, and I stick my foot sometimes in with middle school, but that's about as young as I'll go. But I tell them, try it. The clinic that I worked at before I went full blown into USDA it's here in Birmingham, and like I said, it's owned by Dr. Jerome Williams, who is also your frat brother. Okay. And he has a program where he brings in students from high school and elementary school and middle school, and we just expose them to veterinary medicine. When they're there, they come in, they may go in with him, or when I was working there with me, when we saw patients, when we talked to clients, they may observe from a looking area when we were doing procedures that they could, procedures that they could watch, right? That kind of thing. So I always, whenever parents or students even come to me and say, I'm interested in this, I want to see what you do, I'm like, come on, let's go. Even when I was still working in the field, I would get vet students riding with me all the time so they could see what that side of veterinary medicine looks like, because it's not the same as going in and treating a pet in a clinic. You're treating an animal from a whole different aspect, because it's going into food, so you're looking at it a little bit differently. And so I just tell them, come on, try it. Go. Tuskegee has a program for middle school and high school students, as well as for undergraduate students. You can apply for that program and spend a week or two at the school seeing what it's like to be in vet school. I encourage them to do things like that. I keep a good network of veterinarians in practice as well. And when I find students that want to see what's going on, because I don't practice anymore, I can link them with veterinarians I know that they can go and shadow. One of my really, really good friends and also mentor, she's a dermatologist. And when I tell them you want to go see what a veterinary dermatologist does, their eyes just light up like, wow. Can't believe that we specialize in the same things as human physicians. And so, I try really just to expose them and talk to them about the reality of it, because it's, veterinary medicine is, a lot of people see veterinarians and they think we play with puppies and kittens all day. Right. It's not that. You're actually living, breathing beings, and their lives are at your fingertips, and the decisions that you make will impact them and their human families, because as vets we have to think about the person in it, the owner. That's their pet, that's their family member. And one of the most important lessons that I learned as a vet in practice was, don't judge a book by its cover when it comes to owners, because the roughest looking owner can come in and love their pet more than, the more pretentious or prestigious owners. So You really have to just go in with an open mind, pay attention to what you're doing, and focus 100% on making sure that that animal is okay. And part of that is making sure that their owner is okay as well. And so that's kind of my conversation with them. You know, don't come into this profession thinking I'm just going to be playing with cats and dogs all day.
That's not it.
It's definitely not that. Your emotions, your brain, all of that is involved. And, you know, right now, veterinarians have a high suicide rate.
Oh, wow.
And it's because, you know, we have a lot of debt. We have a lot of emotions associated with the jobs that we do.
Right.
And a lot of times we don't get the support,
the reward
that we need for the reward. You know, dealing with owners can be difficult because veterinary medicine, it you have to pay.
Right.
And you know, a lot of people don't feel like the cost equal the benefit, and that's a very difficult conversation to have with a vet because we put our all.
Sure, I bet you do.
Care these animals, and so the profession is really precarious right now. But it's the profession that I love. I want people to come into it. I don't discourage people from being veterinarians. I tell them, you know, somebody's got to do it.
That's right.
Why not you?
That's it. That's you know what well, I'm lost for words. You know, I just feel like, you know, this profession, you know, does not, as you mentioned, it doesn't get the credit that it deserves. You really don't hear about you know, people of color who are veterinarians. And so hopefully this discussion today will inspire someone to say, hey, I want to further explore being a veterinarian. You are
out there.
Yeah. You're a prime example of what success looks like when it comes to this profession. And we thank you for visiting with us today.
No problem at all. Just, you know, I'm going to always promote my school, Tuskegee University, undergrad and vet med. You know, Tuskegee produces 70% of African-American veterinarians. 2.1% of the workforce, the veterinary workforce is African-American. We can always increase those numbers. So
if you're listening, she has stats. She has stats on Tuskegee. Hey, I got a vibe with you with Tuskegee. My son is there. You know, shout out to my son James Dix IV, who is now a new member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated.
And a Tuskegee man.
And a Tuskegee man. Adrienne, we thank you. We thank you again for coming on today. Any final thoughts? I mean, how can people reach you if they need to? If someone has a question about, I mean, can people email you, or you just want them to contact me, or just what?
Well, definitely they can email. So my email address is my name, Adrienne Dunham @hotmail.com. They can email you if they prefer. But if you have questions about veterinary medicine, how to get your kids involved, Tuskegee University, just feel free to email me. I can put you in contact with people that I know, or if I can help out, I'll help out myself. I'm always open to helping people, particularly when it comes to, you know, my school and my profession, because I have a significant, deep love for what I do.
All right, folks, you have heard it. Adrienne, thanks again for coming. We'll have you wait in the purple room. I'll be there to talk to you soon.
Okay. Have a good one. All right.
All right. Wow. Interesting conversation. A Black female veterinarian. Let me say it again. A Black female veterinarian. I had never heard of it before, but she was able to break some things down that we all can learn from. It's not just about cats and dogs and mice. It's also about the management of food. Wow. I hope you've benefited from this. Again, this is Super Speak Sundays with your host, James the Orator. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just simply go to YouTube, type in James the Orator, one word, TheOrator, one word, The Orator, and hit that subscribe button. We're signing off. Another great show. We look forward to seeing you in the near future. Have a good day. Peace.